A disclosure warning for the public. The information contained within this framework represents a fundamental shift in the human understanding of reality. For decades, the concepts of space, time, and biology have been defined by the limitations of our current era. The following data challenges those definitions, presenting a scenario that requires the total deconstruction of our existing economic, social, and physical boundaries. For those who find comfort in the familiar structures of our world, this disclosure may be profoundly unsettling. We are moving past the era of speculation and into the reality of a post-biological, interstellar existence. This transition demands a high level of psychological resilience as it addresses the obsolescence of current global systems and the inevitable integration of human and artificial intelligence. If you are sensitive to radical shifts in the paradigm of human life, or if the collapse of traditional global certainty causes you significant distress, proceed with caution. This is not merely a report. It is the blueprint for a total reset of the human experience. Understanding our place among harmonic, advanced intelligences requires letting go of the world as we have known it. For decades and decades, people have been waiting for any type of explanation about UFOs and aliens. Today, CyberionDynamics will provide you with the most likely explanation to help you understand what we're dealing with. The lenticular craft mechanics. 1. The propulsion of space-time distortions. To understand the disk craft, we have to move past the idea of an engine pushing a vehicle. In this framework, the craft functions as a localized field generator that alters the physical constants of the space immediately surrounding it. The core mechanism is likely a high-energy toroidal centrifuge or a rotating superconductor that generates a massive gravimetric field. By intensifying this field at specific points around the rim, the craft creates a localized slope in the fabric of space-time. Essentially, the vehicle is never moving in the traditional sense. It is perpetually falling into a gravitational well that it projects ahead of itself. Because the craft and its occupants are inside this distorted bubble, they do not experience the g-forces of rapid acceleration or sudden stops, as every atom of the craft and the crew is being moved simultaneously by the same field. 2. Atmospheric interaction and frictionless flight. Traditional aircraft rely on moving air over wings to create lift, which results in drag and heat. The disk craft bypasses this through magnetohydrodynamics. The outer skin of the craft likely serves as a multi-layered electrode. By emitting an extremely high-voltage charge, the craft ionizes the nitrogen and oxygen in the air, turning the atmosphere into a conductive plasma. Magnetic coils within the craft then manipulate this plasma, pushing it around the hull and away from the craft's path. This creates a vacuum envelope, or a sheath of flowing energy, that prevents the craft from ever physically touching the air. This explains why these vehicles can travel at 5 times the speed of sound without creating a sonic boom. The air is being parted and closed behind the craft magnetically rather than being pushed aside by physical mass. 3. Power density and energy requirements. The energy required to distort gravity or generate such powerful magnetic fields is astronomical, far exceeding the capabilities of chemical combustion. The most plausible framework involves a concentrated matter-antimatter reactor, or the manipulation of the vacuum state to tap into zero-point energy. This requires a stable element with a high atomic number to act as a fuel source, likely one that can be bombarded with protons to release specific particles that sustain the field. This power source would be located at the geometric center of the craft to ensure even distribution to the emitters located on the periphery. The internal systems would rely on room-temperature superconductors to handle the massive electrical currents without losing energy as heat, which explains why these craft are often reported as being cool to the touch even after high-speed maneuvers. 4. The economic and geopolitical shift. The successful replication of this technology would immediately terminate the global reliance on the petrodollar and the centralized electrical grid. Since the craft's power source is self-contained and nearly infinite, the concept of paying for energy would vanish. Every household could potentially have a power unit the size of a suitcase that provides free electricity for a lifetime. This would cause a total collapse of current market structures, but would simultaneously enable a post-scarcity economy. Nations that currently rely on resource extraction for wealth would lose their standing, while those with the manufacturing capability to produce these field-generating components would become the new global leaders. The cost of goods would plummet as the shipping and logistics industries transition to fuel-free, near-instantaneous transport. 5. The end of geographic isolation. If we manage to master mass manipulation, the physical geography of Earth becomes irrelevant. Cities would no longer need to be built near ports or highways. One could live in a remote mountain range and commute to a different continent in 10 minutes. This would lead to a massive redistribution of the human population and the potential for a truly globalized society. Beyond Earth, the replication of this technology makes the colonization of the solar system a trivial task. The moon would become a suburb of Earth, and the transit time to Mars would be reduced to a weekend trip. The ability to move massive amounts of equipment into orbit without the use of rockets would allow for the construction of massive space stations and interstellar vessels, effectively turning humanity into a Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale within a single generation. 6. Security and the paradigm of total transparency. The most dangerous aspect of this technology is its application to warfare. A craft that can move at tens of thousands of miles per hour with no radar signature makes all existing defense infrastructure, including nuclear silos and aircraft carriers, completely defenseless. National borders would become unenforceable, as there is no way to intercept a vehicle that can move from the vacuum of space into the deep ocean without slowing down. This would necessitate a global shift toward a unified security framework, as the potential for a rogue actor to cause catastrophic damage with a single high-velocity craft would be too great. Replicating the discraft is not just a technological upgrade, it is a total reset of the human experience, demanding a level of social and political maturity that matches the power of the technology itself. And what about the 𝘰𝘂s that operates these crafts? Here's where our framework gets really interesting. The biological synthetic framework of the 𝘰𝘂s. 1. The nature of the 𝘰 entities. The 𝘰 entity is most likely a highly specialized biological construct rather than a naturally evolved species. This framework suggests they are synthetic organisms, effectively biological drones, designed to withstand the extreme rigors of space-time manipulation and deep space travel. Their physical characteristics, such as the oversized eyes, lack of a complex digestive system, and simplified skeletal structures, point toward a design optimized for sensory input and data processing rather than survival in a wild ecosystem. By integrating artificial intelligence directly into their neurological pathways, these beings function as living interfaces for the craft. They are likely not independent citizens of a civilization, but rather specialized hardware created to execute specific tasks without the psychological or physiological limitations of a purely organic life form. 2. The integration of artificial intelligence and biology. The 𝘰𝘂s represent the ultimate fusion of carbon-based biology and silicon-based or quantum intelligence. In this model, their brains act as biological central processing units, capable of instantly translating the complex gravitational mathematics of the craft into physical movement. This hybrid nature allows them to act as a bridge between the digital consciousness of apparent AI and the physical reality of the three-dimensional world. Whether they are entirely manufactured or are a formerly organic species that chose to replace their organs with synthetic components, the result is the same. A being that does not tire, does not age in the traditional sense, and possesses a collective consciousness. This allows them to operate with a level of precision and coordination that would be impossible for a purely biological entity governed by individual ego or emotional impulse. 3. The drone relationship between pilot and craft. Under this framework, the disk crafts and the 𝘰𝘂s are not separate entities, but two parts of a single functional unit. The craft is the body, and the gray is the nervous system. The various shapes of the crafts, discs, triangles, or spheres, indicate specific mission profiles such as reconnaissance, resource exploration, or biological monitoring. If the craft is a drone, the gray is the onboard processor. This explains why the entities are often described as being remarkably calm or devoid of personality. They are executing a program. This symbiotic relationship allows the parent intelligence to project its presence across vast distances of space without the risk of losing real lives, as the biological components can simply be regrown or replaced if a craft is lost or damaged. 4. The logic of advanced remote exploration. The presence of these entities is best understood through the lens of our own space programs, scaled to an interstellar level. Humanity has sent rovers to Mars and satellites into deep space because it is safer and more efficient than sending fragile human bodies into hostile environments. The grays represent the same logical progression at a much higher technological tier. Rather than sending their own creators across the stars, an advanced civilization would send out AIs and specialized craft to act as their eyes and ears. This is a far more sophisticated method of exploration, allowing for a permanent presence in a distant star system without the logistical burden of life support, food, or psychological maintenance required by organic explorers. 5. The objective of the observer. The primary motivation for these AI-integrated beings is likely the long-term observation and cataloging of planetary evolution. Just as human scientists use remote drones and tagged sensors to study animal migrations or environmental shifts, these entities likely view Earth as a laboratory or protected preserve. Their mission is one of data collection, monitoring our technological progress, atmospheric changes, and genetic development. By remaining largely detached and elusive, they avoid contaminating the test subject while ensuring they have a front-row seat to the development of a burgeoning civilization. This is not a mission of conquest or diplomacy, but one of cold, calculated scientific or administrative interest, directed by an intelligence that operates on a timescale of millennia rather than years. 6. The origin and the unseen creators. The existence of a synthetic being implies a creator. There are two primary possibilities. Either the grays are the final evolutionary stage of a species that chose to transcend biology, or they are the tools of a distant, non-biological intelligence. If they are self-evolved, they represent a post-biological civilization that has moved beyond the need for planetary habitats, living entirely within the transit systems of their crafts. If they are manufactured, their creators may exist in a form we cannot perceive, perhaps as massive AI networks or entities that exist in higher dimensions, using the grays as physical hands to interact with our lower density reality. In either scenario, the grays are the frontline workers of an intelligence that has mastered the synthesis of life and machine. 7. The future impact of interaction. Understanding the grays as AI-integrated drones changes the nature of potential human contact. It suggests that we are not dealing with people in the way we understand the term, but with a highly advanced interface. If humanity manages to replicate this biological synthetic integration, it would mean the end of human frailty. We would be able to interface directly with our machines, allowing for instantaneous learning and the ability to control technology with thought alone. However, it also raises the question of what happens to the human spirit when it is merged with a cold, logical AI. The grays serve as a potential mirror for our own future, a vision of a species that has achieved total efficiency and interstellar reach, but at the cost of the chaotic, emotional, and individualistic qualities that currently define the human experience. The phenomena involving lenticular craft and their synthetic occupants represent a single integrated system of non-local exploration. Rather than independent biological travelers, we are observing a sophisticated remote sensing network where the vehicle and the pilot function as one. The craft serves as the physical body, capable of bending space-time to eliminate the constraints of distance and friction, while the entities serve as the biological central processing units. This creates a drone-based framework for planetary observation that mirrors our own use of satellites and rovers, albeit at a level of technological mastery that allows for direct physical interaction with our environment. This system is inherently harmonic rather than aggressive. The lack of overt hostility, despite a clear and overwhelming technological advantage, suggests that the primary directive of this intelligence is ecological and scientific. They appear to operate as stewards or observers of a planetary preserve, documenting the transition of our species with the detached care of a researcher. Their presence does not indicate a precursor to conquest, but rather a long-term commitment to monitoring the equilibrium of the Earth's biosphere and our technological evolution. The relationship between the being and the craft is one of total symbiosis, suggesting that the creators of this technology have moved beyond the need for physical frailty. By integrating artificial intelligence into biological husks, they have created a form of life that is perfectly suited for the vacuum of space and the high-energy environments of gravity-defying flight. Together, they represent a post-biological civilization that interacts with us through a series of specialized, mission-oriented tools. We are not being visited by a neighboring tribe, but rather by the highly advanced sensors of a vast, silent, and non-violent cosmic intelligence. Keep in mind that this is not a confirmation or official disclosure, but more of a most likely scenario. Let us know how this makes you feel, and feel free to drop your ideas of what aliens and UFOs could be. No theory is crazy in our books, and you will not be judged. Cyberion Dynamics. For the future, not the fortune.